So who is Root Insurance and how are they really defying the insurance industry? Are they going to save you money? Are they going to be really bad or really good? So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about this Root Insurance company. I tend to follow Google Trends, and that's really a good way for me to find out what you guys are looking for as far as videos go. So I found this company called Root Insurance, and it kind of blew my mind a little bit, so I had to dig in a little bit further. I've probably spent a few days worth of research just trying to find every little niche and review and everything about this company. So I'm going to give you my honest advice in this video. So first of all, who is Root Insurance? Completely different company. What they're doing is they're kind of taking a concept. It even says in their paperwork that they weren't expecting to go into the insurance industry, but they saw kind of a gap, so to speak, and they decided to try to fit the need of the majority of people. So essentially the whole plan is, if you haven't already seen what they do, is Root Insurance is removing high-risk drivers from the entire system. If you are a good driver, and they'll show you here what they mean by that, that they are only going to insure those type of people. So those of you that, like I hear every day, if you complain about, I'm not getting the best deal because I'm pooled with all these, bad drivers or people with tickets and people that have lead foots, and now that they legalize marijuana and all that, that whole 9 yards, I hear it all. They're more worried about their insurance rates going up because you are in a risk pool. So when you join Geico Insurance, anyone that has tickets with Geico is part of that risk pool. So their prices, they have more tickets, more accidents, more claims, your insurance goes up with theirs. That is the same thing with Root. However, what they do is they kind of do it in reverse order. So if you've ever heard of like a snapshot, Progressive does that. Now they call them safety 360s and telematics and all these new devices that you plug into your car or use on your cell phone. They're going to track your driving. Well, they'll usually give you 3 to 10%. The max I've seen is a company called State Auto, who I actually have as one of the companies we use in Michigan, but they go as high as 25% off. So this is for a current client. Now what Root does is they kind of reverse it. So what they do is they have you download the app, you get your app up on your phone, and that's it. That's the only way you can get it. That's the only way this insurance works. You have to be willing to use an app, be paperless, all that stuff. There's no sales agent. So you download this app and you hit go. What they're going to do is they're going to take a photo of your license, they're going to verify you, and they're going to actually have you drive for anywhere from 2 weeks up to 90 days. So roughly 3 months. It's going to watch everything you do. If you pick up your phone while you're driving, you hit, you're texting somebody, it knows that. If you're hitting bumps a lot, it knows that. It's looking for patterns, things like that, and I'll go more in depth with that. But what they're going to do is, if you are qualified and you're a really good driver, then they're going to offer you an insurance policy. Well, what's the benefit? The benefit is they're right now saving people over $1,100 per year. I think it's $1,158 is their average per year off your insurance. That's 52% less than what a lot of people currently pay for insurance. So you're going to get the best rate possible. Now, is that sustainable? Can you trick it? Are there going to be a lot of hacks out there? That's going to affect things like that. They seem to think not. There's a quick hour video about them where their telematics guy goes through and explains the whole algorithm of everything. But what he basically tells you in these videos is that most people in a 90-day period aren't going to take the time to try to trick a system like this. They're not going to necessarily dig in and try to find some way to get around it. They say just the average person. And how accurate is it? That's something that's also really important. So if you're interested in saving 52% on your insurance, this may be the option for you. The states that they're currently in are going to be, now they are planning on opening up other states, so they may actually go into other states in the future. Keep in mind that this is something I would keep a close eye on, and I'll probably personally do another video about them 6 months to a year from now, just to kind of follow up and see where we've gone from there. So currently, just to give you a background on them, they are rated 2.9 out of 5 stars, which isn't great, but it's actually not bad either. Most people go online to complain. Now these guys are getting a lot of positive and negatives. So there's a couple things I should tell you guys about them. Is the positives, the majority of the positives are 5 stars all the way because they saved a lot of money. So people are saving $300, $500, $1,000, even more than that on their auto insurance. So they're excited. They go online and they post a review. They've never used the company yet. They just know they save money. I'm happy. I'll give you a 5-star review. Great. The negatives are currently is the claims history. So there are a lot of people that aren't with Root. They're with a completely different company, but the person that hit them is with Root. So the problem is they're having trouble getting through to the claims department. So it's not really going to affect you directly. That's the majority of the negative reviews that I've seen so far. People that aren't currently with them get hit by you, and their claims are taking twice as long, which is expected. This is a newer company. They're even though they have a huge history of people that know the insurance industry, they've definitely put their time and research into it. They still have to build this from ground up. So that's the number one positive, the number one negative. So what you would typically be complaining about is the claims service is slower currently. Now, and the reason I say that currently asterisk whatever is because they are actually turning their claims service from an outsourced system into an internal system. So they're basically saying, okay, we used to pay these guys to go off and look at these photos and do all this stuff and verify the values. Now we're going to do it ourselves. So they're kind of transitioning from that into this. Granted, that is going to be a lot more load on them, a lot more stress, things like that. However, I want to give you a quick positive to that point. Yes, there are some complaints about that. There's not that many of them, so I don't think it's necessarily a huge concern yet, but it's something to keep an eye on. But the thing is, I'm looking also at Glassdoor. So if you've ever seen Glassdoor.com, that's where you want to look if you're ever looking for a job. Well, if you look up Root, they're rated 4.5 out of 5 stars. That's incredible. That's like, and granted, there's only 21 reviews. They're new, but that's unheard of. Like, people love working for them. The biggest thing is they love the CEO. They love the direction. Their cons to working there are the workload, which they said it is becoming a heavier workload, but that's expected. They're growing, right? They're trying to fit everything in their budget and make it work. So they're taking good care of their employees, which is a huge, huge, huge thing in insurance. Because you've got an unhappy employee, you're just going to get rude people, and that's not worth your time. So they're happy working there. They're getting through claims, although they are backed up and trying to get through them. They're asking for a little bit of patience, but they've got a lot of really cool features that I really, really like about them. Don't forget, by the way, if you found this helpful, share it with your friends, hit the subscribe button. If you want to learn more about other insurance companies in your area. Otherwise, if you're just looking for insurance advice, definitely keep an eye on me. So the first question I personally had when I thought of this company is, how do they know I'm a good driver? Like, how does this differ from the thing I plug into my OBD2 or my car system, right? Is this going to be that accurate? Well, the new technology in phones today, yes, they know everything we're doing. I know when I tilt my phone, I know when I move it, it knows how long my screen's been on, it knows if I'm touching it, it knows everything. So that is the trade-off. You are giving them personal access to the app. They're not looking at your contacts or your cell phones or any of that private data. And yes, they do not use your data or sell your data to anybody. I did research that as well. That was a concern. There is a really good positive aspect to trying it, is because it's just like any other app. Every app you go on to says, I want to be part of Facebook. You log in through Facebook or log in through Google, and we're going to let you we're going to look at all your information, your email, your name. That's how we're going to log you in. Same thing. You say yes, like every other app you've downloaded. And then it's going to say start tracking. It's going to use your GPS system. So will it drain your battery? A little bit. They've actually tweaked it from what I could see where it doesn't use it any more than anything else. It's only going to be using it while you're driving. So it's going to detect that portion. This system is going to detect all of that stuff. So if you're the guy that texts on your phone, don't even bother. Eventually you're going to forget about it. You're going to start texting 22 days into the system, and they're just going to decline you. They flat out just tell you no. Now keep in mind, if they tell you no, it's indefinite. They don't have a specific redo. There's no retry. So right now at this current point, if no, you're no. What they're looking for those of you that want to kind of play the game, they are looking for consistency. So it's not whether you're going 60 and a 55 that plays the tiniest factor. I mean, if at all. They're looking at how often are you going 60 and a 55 Is it to work, to the grocery store, to home? To work, to the grocery store, to home? To work, maybe to a friend's house, to home? They're looking at that consistency. And if you're constantly driving 60 and a 55, they're not going to care because they're going to assume that traffic is that way and you're going that way. The biggest thing they're looking at is braking. They're looking at how quickly you hit the brake pedal, acceleration, how quickly your phone goes from point A to point B with your GPS. The faster it goes, they know you're speeding up faster or you're stopping faster. So it can determine that. So next question people think, and I personally think this myself, well, how do they know I'm in my car? What if I have this app on and I'm in my friend's car? Well, it does also determine that as well. So they are kind of guessing at this, and they said it's not perfect, but it is pretty accurate with all the systems that they're using. It knows the ride of your car because of the bumps and things like that. Yes, don't put it in your cup holder. Put the phone. I honestly, if I'm going to do a 90-day trial period, I'm going to get a soft a cushion. I'm going to grab a pillow or something and set my phone on it for 90 days and just try to get that level 10 score, so to speak. It will show you, by the way, what your scores are and how good you're doing as you're doing it. I'm going to make sure it's perfect, but then they'll notice all of a sudden you're on a bus because it's bumpy and you're not taking a normal route. They know if you're on a train because the train route was going across roads instead of down the road. So they can determine things like that through the GPS. That GPS system is pretty darn accurate. You got to thank Apple and all the Google phone systems out there that did that. Well, what if I have 5 people in my house? I currently insure 3 of the 5 people that I live with. Do we all have to do it? It is recommended but not required. So yes, you can do it, but I don't know, and they didn't go into specifics on how they would determine this. So it may be beneficial to have that second driver as well doing it. You just send them the link and then they log in and it logs into your system even though they have a completely separate app. So it can tie those two together to give you guys ultimately a score. Personally, I don't think I would do that. I would choose the latter because I would want just me to be rated. If I know I'm specifically driving and my wife drives different or my girlfriend drives different, I got a wife. Don't tell my wife I said that. So she's on the motorcycle, I'm in the car, right? So that's just the way that's going to go. I'm going to just test me and just take the results from that. Like I mentioned before, if you do not qualify, can you take it again? Probably not. Maybe in the future, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. So if you're going to take the test drive, then make sure that you have it planned where you're not going on vacation the next 90 days. So it's not detecting you in an airplane, things like that. Even though they say they do, it could malfunction, right? It could just say, oh, he's driving 102 miles an hour down the road, right? I don't want that to hurt your chances of saving money with the system. Don't do it when you're going on vacation. Don't do it when you've got a lot of things going on. It's Christmas season and it's nonstop traffic. You're going to stop and go, stop and go, stop and go, fight someone for a parking spot. Just make sure it's an average day. Maybe it's a summer, you're going to the beach a couple times, you're doing this, doing that, but you're not overwhelming the system. If you drive too little, it will determine that too, and it may extend the period that it requires you to do the test. So don't try to, turn it on, set your phone aside, and try to avoid it. It knows whether you've driven enough, and it's going to determine whether you need to drive more for them to accurately give you a price. So the biggest thing and the biggest question that I've personally thought of is how big of a discount can this actually make? It's larger than any company I've ever seen. The amount of your insurance that you pay, let's just put them in 100%. The amount of this discount is 30%. Typically with, I think it's Progressive, they're anywhere from 3 to 10% off. That's if you've already joined them. So they're going to give you that on top of it. And then if you are a bad driver, some of them take the discount away. I don't think Progressive does necessarily, but you don't get any additional discounts. With State Auto, you can go opposite. So if you're a bad driver, you could be charged 25% more or 25% discount. So it can go either way you do it. So you got to keep that in mind when you're going with these other options. So what I'm going to do, if you guys want to download the app, I'm going to go into more detail, but I'm going to put the link below so that you guys can download it. Make sure that you're in the state. It'll tell you if you're not. If you want to learn about other insurance companies, I'm actually currently working with somebody to see if I can get you guys some quotes from multiple companies at once. So that way you guys can get like kind of a comparison. Hey, this is Root, or hey, this is the other 12 companies or 15 companies or 18 companies out there. Give me a quote for those guys. The next most important question I had was, what happens after you've gotten it? Is the renewal going to go up in 6 months? Is it going to require me to take this every year or every couple years? So I actually reached out to Root and I got a response from them. So the question that I asked was, one, do you offer a yearly policy? Because that's important. And two, do you guys make me retest this every so often? And they told me no. So you don't have to rerun it. Once you've done it, you can turn off the app. Keep in mind, if you don't turn it off, I don't think it stops tracking you. So if you're done, shut it off, you're done, walk away. That way they're not going to come back to you and say, oh, we notice you're driving crazy now. So that's one thing, but keep in mind that app is also the same way you pay, the same way you make updates, same way you go in and you get the road service if you opted into it. The downfall is they don't offer a yearly policy, so it's 6 months at a time, so they do have every 6 months that they could change the rate. To be honest with you, if I'm saving $500 and that's the route I'm going to go, it's the same exact coverage as I have now, I'm saving $500 and they raise me $200 6 months from now, sure, a lot of people are going to feel like they got scammed, but it's still $300 every 6 months. That's $600 a year. That's something that's pretty interesting. As long as I'm getting good service, and if I have a claim, they're going to take care of it, which is kind of the unknown. We don't know exactly yet where that's kind of going because they're bringing that in-house. But as long as they're meeting those requirements, I'm pretty comfortable with that. One of the cool facts that I learned about them is if you're going to get a rental car, so that's an optional coverage, if I'm in an accident, are they going to pay to rent a car for me for the next month while my car's getting fixed? They actually offer Lyft. So you can, when you have an accident, you can choose A, go rent this car for $30 a day, up to 90 days, right? Or up to $900. Or B, I can choose not to rent a car and I'm just going to order a Lyft every day. And they'll actually pay that Lyft driver to drive you home and back and home and back. That's pretty cool. I like that feature. The thing I wanted you guys to see was the pricing value. So here's how they rate it. The number one thing they're going to rate is your driving. And that's really the whole push. They're like, we're upsetting the industry because we're going to check your driving first, not where you live. And that's where the other insurance come in. They usually rate your zip code, not the driving. And then they'll give you a little discount for driving. It's the opposite. So the number one thing, 30% of it is your driving. Number two is credit score. So if you have really low credit, it's going to hurt you a little bit. Age, marital status. These are in order from what their website says. Your gender. Younger females tend to drive better. Older males tend to drive better. I don't know. That's just the stats. Don't blame me. Whether you have prior insurance, so that is a factor. If you don't currently have insurance, odds are you're less likely to qualify for the program. I don't know how well they rate that, so it's worth a try. Although if you don't have insurance or if you've only had insurance for a couple months, I would recommend going at least 6 months before you try using the Root system. Because if you get denied now because you didn't have 6 months of prior insurance, although they don't say you have to, I still would fail safe because that's a big thing in the insurance industry. It's the biggest discount in the normal selection of whether a risk is high or low. So I personally would make sure you've had at least 6 months of prior insurance. Try to get some higher limits on that current policy so that when you come over, they're going to look at you as a lower risk because you're coming from a 6 month policy or longer. There's no way to tell if it's been a year or 5 years. So I've had 6 months or longer with an insurance company, and I have these higher liability limits. I've got the $250,000 a person, $500,000 an accident, and I'm going to come over to Root and I'm going to do the same exact thing. Well, I'm going to be looked as a lower risk. That's a benefit to you. The vehicle type does make a small consideration, and then it does also consider the zip code. If you're in a zip code that is a higher risk, there's more claims in that zip code. There's higher theft, vandalism, things like that. It is going to raise the insurance rate a little bit. And they may even deny you because of the zip code. Maybe you're in Miami, Florida, if that's a location they insure. Okay, so you got to remember that's not going to, you can't control that. It is what it is. You just kind of honestly have to accept that portion of it, and they may or may not offer you a rate because of it. At the time of making this video, they have pretty decent reviews. So what I would do is download the app, try it out, do the test drive, and see what they say. If they offer you a really good price and you like it, then what I would do is I would go in and do a little bit of research. I would go back and make sure that their claims history is not gone downhill. Honestly, I think it's going to go up because they currently, when they did this, they had like a $2 billion backing. So their funding is there. It's just unique. It's something that they just started. It is a little bit of a gap to notice that they're not giving insurance to the good drivers. They're just giving them a piece of the discount. If you guys give me just one more minute, I want to explain one other thing here. Is that's not a negative on other insurance companies. So keep in mind what a lot of other insurance companies do is what they do is they do take the zip code. It's a big factor. Credit's a big factor. Prior is a big factor. All of that stuff. But what they do really well is they do put you in different categories. So a lot of companies will break your zip code and your risk into different profiles. So technically what some companies are doing is they are putting you in the lower risk pool, where these other higher risks, even if they do take them, a lot of times those companies will outprice themselves for those risks. So if you have a DUI and a speeding ticket and an accident, sure, they legally have to offer you a price. That's their rules with the state, right? They have contracts, but they're going to make it 2 to 3 times higher because that's that risk. Oh, well, if that risk raises up, here's the price that we're coming up with. It's a percentage, right? So if you're that person, they might offer you a $3,000 per month policy, where the person that has a perfect driving record, it might be $3,000 for the entire year. Those are the differences between, like, Root does it up front, but that's not to say that these other companies aren't doing it wrong. It's just to say that this is kind of a reversed psychology system where I really like it. I think it's going to be interesting to see where they go with it, if they can capitalize on it, and if not, a lot of people trick their system. So that is a thing that's going to happen in the next few years. They are going to take risks that are good, that will turn bad, so that's going to affect their loss ratio, and the rates will go up, is my opinion. I think that they're in a really good spot, kind of like where State Farm was a few years ago, where they wanted a lot of business in the East and the West Coast, and they had all these great prices, they pulled in too much, and then they had a huge multi-billion-dollar loss. The rates went up. That's just what happens with insurance companies. If you don't calculate it or guess it correctly, then that's just what's going to happen. Anyways, guys, if you have questions or comments, definitely leave them below. Don't forget to smash that like button. Subscribe if you want to see more videos, and I will see you in the next one.